can't minimize it. It's recording well, let me see here. Maybe not. I think I have to share a screen or something to do that. There we go. Share screen. This. Okay, it should be sharing the screen and recording. It should be. And let me go remind people that they have class.
Is anybody here that has it?
Yes.
Oh.
Reason for accounts. By questions. I don't understand.
Okay. Oh, hi Pat. Oh, Michelle's there. Hi Michelle.
Oh, Latasha bowed out.
Pat and Michelle are on.
Oh, awesome.
Hello.
So then maybe everyone until Kayla is done with her Dan thing.
Say that again.
I said that maybe everyone until Kayla is done with her Dan meeting upstairs.
Okay, it's up to you. It doesn't. I didn't come later on purpose because I have it's my quiet time up there to do stuff. So that's when I do my, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other people are all supposed to be coming in from there, I think. Because Amanda and Camelia and you said Pat's already on there.
Yeah,
so.
Pat's right there.
Cool. That's everybody.
Should we wait for someone else?
I don't know how long Dan will be in that meeting. We probably shouldn't wait.
Yeah, no.
She will have to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the good thing is I have all the information. We can share it, so it is fairly simple. Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Jane, and I am the English teacher at St. Bernard's in Eureka. And I teach AP Literature, AP Language, and American Film. And I have my degrees in English. However, I started out in construction when I moved to America. So I've actually been in a construction environment and love to do strange things like go out tile and paint. So
Awesome.
Business communication is a way to eliminate problems, because when you're dealing with clients and when you're dealing with people who've been scheduled to work, you often have to deal with problems. And so this is just a way to make things go efficiently so that you're not frustrated at the end of the day. And there are fairly simple ways to do that. I mean, you can't eliminate the problems, but you can actually minimize the disruptions. All right, so this is a little bit of background, and you'll see the reason for this as we move along. The most important thing when you're communicating is to know your audience. And so it makes a big difference if you're dealing with, you're sending an email to Dan Johnson, or if you're sending an email to someone in the office. Because that'll determine your tone. So if you are trying to submit a bid to the mayor, you're going to have a slightly different tone than if you are submitting some kind of proposal in office, because you might know the people in the office, so your tone will be more casual. If you're dealing with Mr. and Mrs. homeowner and they've saved all their money for this renovation, or the fridge has leaked and the plumber didn't arrive, you'll have a little bit of a different tone. So in the beginning, just know who your audience is, because it helps. So to know what is appropriate is really the easiest way to make things go smoothly. Your client might be an architect, Dr. Wong. You're going to be using his title, and you'll say sincerely at the end. A colleague, dear Erin, that's great, thanks so much. Friends, you do shortcuts, LOL, little emoji, where are you? And if you're dealing with your team, you might use acronyms, like you'll know what HVAC is. At school, everyone knows what the SAT is and, ACT. But don't assume that Dr. Wong knows those words. So make sure that when you're using acronyms, that you either explain them or that it's clear. You just need to know your audience, because you don't want to confuse them. The next thing you need to do is just identify the purpose of your communication. And emails might have a very different purpose depending on where you are in the thread of the email. For example, when Erin reached out to Paul Shanahan, she had this request. And then Paul Shanahan sent it to me, then I dealt with her. In the very beginning with Erin, I was quite formal, because she was quite formal. After 2 or 3, we were just like, that's great, what time? Yes, that works. So the purpose of the email changed from the very beginning, where it was formal, to now where it's like, where are you? All right. So
people got that email.
And emails and memos and things have different purposes. So it might be to inform. It could be to thank somebody, really appreciate that you were there on time. It might be to propose some kind of solution where you have to sort of walk the tightrope, because you're not sure what the solution is going to be. And then the most important thing is to identify the outcome, because you don't want to be having too much information, and people don't want to read too much in an email. It's overwhelming when you get an email that's just full of information that is not actually going to help you do what you need to do. So usually you use the W's: who's involved, what needs to be done, when must it be done by, where is this happening, and what are the expectations. The what are the expectations are very critical, because it allows your reader, or the person who has to do something, to shine. And you really want that person to know what to do, because we all have been in the situation where you read something and you're like, I actually don't know what to do. I don't quite know how to do this. And it puts you, at a disadvantage. And then sometimes people don't want to do that thing. Why should I not be wearing sneakers? Well, so, try and give them some buy-in with the why. And the biggest thing is that you need to respect the fact that people have different perspectives. So person on the left is saying it's a 9, the other person is saying it's a 6. They're both seeing something in a different way. And you might not agree with them, but you just need to respect the counter argument, because sometimes in the counter argument lies a really good solution. And so you might think you're right, but oftentimes there are different ways to achieve whatever it is that you need to achieve. So always respect your audience, respect even if they're an opponent or a competitor, respect them, because there might be something in there that is really beneficial. So the most important thing with business communication is just supplying them with what do they already know and exactly what do they need. They don't need all the details, and they don't need huge backstories. They usually just need something simple that will fill it in. All right, so you're going, okay, I'm not a mind reader. Do you know how many texts and emails and calls I deal with every day? Like, I just can't. Oh, I'm so confused. Because I know that you deal with a lot of different types of correspondence, that there are a lot of projects that are going on that I don't even know about. Danco is an organization that I see at school doing multiple things. So I understand that there are things here I don't even know about. I don't know what you're involved in. So you're thinking, how do I make this all work? Fortunately, I don't have to make anything up, because a very wise Greek person by the name of Aristotle said, this is how you communicate. And he says, these are the triangle. This is the triangle of communication. So at the very top, and the most important, is your credibility. When you send an email, who are you? Can they see who you are? Do they know who Danco is? Do you have a good reputation? Will they be able to trust what you're saying? Then you have logos, which is the logic of what you're saying. So you might include some data or a chart or a deadline or some facts about the project. And then pathos is the one that sounds like it's touchy-feely, this dealing with emotions with people. But pathos is the one that helps you reach the audience or the reader or the client. And it can be done very easily. It does not have to be a story or how's your cat or I hope you're feeling better after your operation. Sometimes it could just be Erin at the end of her email to me going, thanks, with an exclamation mark. And immediately it's a more relaxed ending. So these three things are really the key to just communicating, whether it's writing or speaking. Because what you're trying to do is really deal with the heart of somebody. You want them to trust you. You're trying to give them the facts that are logical to them in their mind, like, yeah, I can see how this is going to work. And you want to build on the credibility or maintain the credibility of the company you're in and the position that you hold within that company. So if Erin sends an email and she says, hi Jane, I am a part of the marketing department and we are working on a foundation and I would like you to help me set up this website. The minute she says that she's in marketing and she has experience with a website, she has credibility, because I'll be thinking, I can't help you. I don't have those skills. I can help you with the language. But when she tells me what she can do, then I'm relieved, because I can do my thing because you have the credibility to do your thing, which makes us a good team. All right, so here are some basics about ethos. And it says the speaker, but it's also the person who is writing. And in the lower row, you can see that as a writer, you want to be trustworthy. When Erin said that she would send me an email back by this time, she did that. And I know that Danco has a good reputation because I see them at school. So already this whole experience to me was worth my time because I know who Danco is. Then the audience, anyone who's getting your email, anyone who's getting your report, you need to be connecting with them. And you need to be connecting with them oftentimes just with fairness. If they've called in with a problem, they've sent an email going, your roofer didn't arrive on time, or no one has called me back to fix my leaking dishwasher. The way you use your triangle is you go, I am so sorry about this. That must be awful. I really would hate to find out that anything was damaged. So that's just your ethos. And then you just reach over to logos. However, we have a guy who's going to be there at 5 o'clock tomorrow, and he has all the parts. And if there's anything you need from me, please call me. We really want to make this right. Okay, so that pathos doesn't have to be touchy-feely stories. It's just, oh my God, if this was me, I want that other person on the line to just have that empathy and to be respectful and responsive. All right, so think about how this triangle might change when the audience changes. So if you were going to email to a client, what sort of tone would you use? I'm not sure.
I am in the property management part.
Okay.
I'm the property manager of all the properties.
Uh-huh.
So if I were to email a resident,
Uh-huh.
I've already established a relationship with them, I would say, hi, Erin. I received your email and I am working on getting a maintenance man out there. So I would address them by first name with, in my mind, that I already established a relationship.
Right.
And how they sent an email to me.
Correct.
In that regards. So then if I were to send out a formal letter in the mail to just one particular resident that I really didn't know, and so I would put, Dear Mr. Morrison. Now, would it be dear or to?
Dear is just easy.
Okay.
So, because with communication, the simpler it is, the better. Because you're not trying to be Shakespeare. You're not trying to use big lawyer language.
No, because you have to know your audience, like you said, and
right.
Not only would I not understand it, but they probably wouldn't either. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the whole point of business communication is that it's professional, but it's really simple.
Mm-hmm.
Because you do not want your audience to be confused, and you also don't want to overload them with too much information. And with most people, they're quite happy with, Dear Mr. Morrison, thank you very much for your payment, which was received on August the 5th. We will have someone out there next Wednesday, and please let us know if you want it between 8 and 1, or between 1 and 4. So it could just be that simple. If it's fairly formal, you can just at the end go sincerely.
Okay.
If it's not formal, you can just say thanks, Jane. Okay. But the whole point is that you need to know your client, because that is how you determine what is appropriate. What is never appropriate is to have a tone that's immediately going to make them on the defensive. So, for example, if you're emailing a client and you know who this client is, and in your mind, you're thinking these people are annoying. Okay, they complain about all sorts of things, and quite honestly, a lot of the time, it's not accurate. You still have to step back and go, okay, my triangle. I have to uphold the reputation of this company.
Mm-hmm.
I still need to reach out to them in a way that diffuses the situation. And I have to supply them with enough information to where they are disarmed. So that You're not going to send an email that goes, I got your email about the leaking dishwasher. This is the third time it's happened. We don't have any guys out there right now, and you're just going to have to wait. Probably go under the sink and check the valve. Okay. That's just going to make them mad, even though it's correct. It's going to make them mad. So it's way better just to take your emotions out of the situation. And always make sure that the language is as professional as possible, because as we know by the news, nothing that is sent in a text, nothing that is sent via email, nothing in this digital world can be erased, ever. And so you want to make sure that every email that is sent actually reflects what the company stands for. Would you want that email read on the evening news? Would you want Dan Johnson to use it as an example? Yes, if it's a good example. No, if it's a bad example. So this whole business communication thing, in the back of your mind, you need to always just remember that it's eternity. And so just take the time to always phrase it in a way that you would be comfortable having it documented to everybody. Now, number 2, consider how one part of the triangle might be emphasized for a purpose. Politicians use this all the time. One of the most famous speeches by John F. Kennedy, where he says, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. You can analyze that speech. There is very little data. There was no plan on how this was going to happen, but he was very clear on patriotism and how America was great and how every individual could do something. So depending on your audience, you can weight a certain part of the triangle. If you're dealing with a group of engineers, they're not going to want to know all those lovely stories and examples. They want to know data. Okay, when, how, what is, what is the soil quantity? What is this? Who's going to be there? So consider that this triangle can be manipulated because it's for a purpose. So how do you apply this triangle to your work requirements? You have to remember that you are, at any point, you are your company. And that's a very strange thing to remember, because you're thinking, no, I'm here doing a job. But actually, you are your company. When I get a letter or an email from a parent who might be annoyed, John said he turned in his homework, but I don't see it on the grade book. Did he not hand it in, or just have you not graded it? And there's a tone. Immediately, I have to step into the role of, even though he often doesn't hand in his homework, I have to be the voice of St. Bernard. How would Paul Shanahan want me to handle this? Because these are his clients. And so I have to just interpret that comment as, this is a concerned parent. I need to respond to this just very unemotionally. And I need to make sure that when I send it back, that I've checked all my spelling and grammar, because that's part of
who you are.
Persona at school.
Yes.
Okay. And the quickest way to sort of undermine yourself is bad spelling and grammar.
Mm-hmm.
And I have thesaurus.com and dictionary.com always up there, because I'm thinking, does connotation have 2 N's? Does this have 2 T's? Mississippi, where are we going with that?
And then sometimes there's words like, if you do spell check, it doesn't catch it because it is a word but with a different meaning or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you do have to, like you said, have the dictionary or thesaurus up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really worth your time, because there's nothing worse than reading your email back and you're like, oh, I used there instead of there, and I should know that. So
I was thinking that today too. I used there, and I'm like, is this the right there? And it was, but
Yeah.
I do that because that's what, 3 or 4 different ways of saying that.
Correct. And so,
Yeah.
and we will go through these commonly confused words, and there are a few tricks to remembering them. But the most important thing is to just remember that all these basic things, such as grammar and understanding your audience, these are important because when you don't use these skills, it just undermines your credibility. And your credibility is really the company's credibility. And that's kind of a trust that you really don't want to break. All right, so how do you connect in this job with pathos? Just how you react using empathy. There are certain words you can use that can diffuse any situation, because there are words that place blame, and then there are words that are fairly neutral. So if you were responding to an angry person, okay, dishwasher's leaked. This is the second time. All right. Your guys made a mistake. If you took that word mistake, that word is loaded. All right. There's blame there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take that word and find a word that is not loaded? Maybe it was an oversight. All right. It was unintentional. So take every word and just go, is this a loaded word? Are the connotations negative or positive? And try and get them to be as neutral as possible, because you shouldn't be having high blood pressure over all these things. The language can really diffuse the anger. So find words that have connotations that are not negative and don't blame. And then it's just not going to hurt you to react with empathy, even though this is the 10th time you've received a similar email. Because the bottom line is you really want these people to not be annoying you. So if you can perhaps do something to help that, that is your purpose. All right. And then logos is the logic of your email or your writing. So think about your audience, think about your purpose, and then what details are logical for that situation. What kind of format, sequence, and language? In an email, you don't want a lot of extra details. Bullet points are fabulous. You should be very specific and clear. Don't use jargon, meaning like avoid things that are cliche, like it's raining cats and dogs. Don't use lawyer talk like heretofore, henceforth. All of those complicated things. Really simplify it. So Erin sends me an email. She says, hello, I am Erin from Danco, and I would like to put together a business communications course. Then she'll just bullet point things. She'll say, we are available on Thursday. We have X amount of people, and we'd like it to be an hour. Does this work for you? And in her title line, so when I get the email, it says Danco Business Workshop. Because then I just look at it and I'm like, okay, Danco, all right, yes. And I can send her an email back going, Thursday works great. I can do an hour. This many people sounds great. All right. So because people are busy and it's overwhelming when you get too many attachments, too much information, or not enough information. So really with your triangle, your credibility and your empathy and just clear details, you come across just as being professional, and it's efficient, because that's the whole goal of all of this, is that it's efficient.
Very good, Erin.
Yes, she does lovely emails. So, all right. So in school, and I'm saying this in school because I've just done my certificate for a further course. They always do a quick write at the end, and you don't share it with anybody, but just what you connected with, because that's the only way we transfer information. So 2 minutes to summarize the key points that you connected with. Just anything that you.
Can you give me an example?
Well, like I love the triangle thing. I hadn't seen that before, but it put ideas I had heard before in a very logical manner.
Okay.
Which I like.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
But don't steal mine.
And next time, get the upstairs conference center. It's hot in here. It's awful down here. But it's not Aaron's fault. Dan's up there, so
Yeah.
we can't really kick him out. Somebody told me that yesterday. Can't you just tell Dan our meeting's going to start? I'm like, you want to tell Dan the meeting's going to start? We'll go in there when he's done. Right?
Yeah, no, that's, there would be words said.
Would they be negative or positive?
They would be not neutral words.
For sure.
They would not be neutral words. They would definitely be part of the ethos.
That's for sure.
All right, so none of that was brain surgery, but at the same time, it is the standard for all business communication, for all business courses, for all writing courses, for college level courses, internationally. Using the rhetorical triangle is the way it is. There are other aspects of it. For example, the timeliness or the timing of your email is often critical. So there's all sorts of other things, but really just understanding that this system has actually worked for thousands of years. It's not something that I've made up, but it's something that really works. And you can see that people who are wonderful speakers, such as Martin Luther King Jr. or whoever it is that you might admire, they all are able to do this triangle very, very well. Please remember, if you don't have the credibility, you're not Dan Johnson, you can always use someone else's credibility. So you can say, hello, I'm Erin. Dan Johnson asked me to reach out to you so that you could do this workshop. Right there, you can partner with someone else's credibility. All righty, do you need a 2-minute break? And we'll go on to...
No, I don't. You can, if you need 2 minutes.
I don't.
Is that what that means? Take 2 minutes?
Well, just if you need something.
Oh, no, I'm good.
I'm stealing water.
All right. Erin, what I would like to do is to get to my slide, but I don't want to cut off your people at the top. I don't know if you can.
Let me see it real quick.
I just can't see the tabs. Well, we're going to go to the grammar skills. Oh, no. I want
You just hit it.
This.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
This one.
Yeah.
There we go.
Ta-da. What time do you want to go till?
We have another 25 minutes, so as long as
I'm good.
You never know how quickly or slowly things go. Usually in a big group, it goes much slower because people
Ask questions.
ask questions or whatever. But all right, so some basic grammar rules, and there are a million. The good news is you probably know more from 5th grade than you realize, because most of the grammar you really learn as a child, and then at some point you go, well, I don't know what a dangling modifier is. I have no idea. What is an A positive? Oh, am I not a good English person? No, there's just people who make up words, and then you think you don't know it, but you actually do, because when you see the example, you're like, yeah, I know that. So please don't be intimidated by all the words that people in any industry make up.
I have a bachelor's degree in English. I don't know what either of those things are.
Me either.
So that's what I'm telling you, but you actually do when you
She'll-
see them.
Mm-hmm.
But first of all, the most important thing is spelling. Spelling is a difficult thing because it's hard to just memorize stuff. I would say to you that the easiest way to learn spelling is to read. It is, so if anyone has children, just have them read and they'll never have to memorize stuff. But if you're in doubt, just do the dictionary, go to a thesaurus, and just get it right, because as you said, sometimes spell check, there
You know it's not right, but
you're like,
it's saying
why?
it is, so yeah.
So just always take the time, have someone else look it over. And if you're in a rush, I understand, but it really does give you more credibility when your spelling is correct.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it's just some very obvious stuff. A lot of people write sentences that don't always make sense. One of the things that I will see often is a sentence like, because we went there, or it'll just be the sentence that sits in the middle of some kind of writing and doesn't really have a noun. It just starts somewhere, but there's not this actual thing that is taking place with the person. So with nouns, you always have this person, place, or thing, but it can also be something abstract like peace or love. So abstract nouns are a strange concept, but actual concrete nouns, you can always test them. They're usually, you'll say, an apple or the boy. So they're easy to figure out. Pronouns, we just use in place of nouns, but in an email, make sure that the pronoun is correct for who it's referring to. Dan Johnson wants you to take his dog to the vet because his schedule is tight. Okay, you can kind of see that it's referring to Dan, but it could also be referring to the dog. All right, so just make sure that your pronouns are correct, right? Because it can be very confusing. Verbs. The important thing with verbs is that they're just action words, but also states of being. So we all know about running and eating and walking, but things like I am and he is and they were are also verbs because it's anything to do with you living and breathing. And a test is usually, can you put to in front of it? To run, to eat, to walk, to be. Yes, I can do that. Where a lot of problems come in is with tenses and verbs. So sometimes you'll start in the past tense and then you'll go into another tense. We went to the store and we're walking to the coffee shop. Okay, it should be we went to the store and we walked to the coffee shop. So just keep your verbs in their right tense in one sentence. You can change tenses in the next sentence. We will be going to Winco, and after that, we hope to go to Costco, but make sure in one sentence that you keep those verbs in their tense, because otherwise it's confusing. And this just links back to credibility. So when I write, I don't always get this right the first time. I'll often go back and go, oh, why did I do that? So, it's not an instinctive thing. It's just a habit. I just go back and go, did this make sense? All right, adjectives will modify detail and noun. So the boy, the hungry boy, the tree, the tall tree. So that's the only job of an adjective. Adjectives in business language can add connotations. So the frustrated roofer knocked on your door 3 times and you did not answer. So you must not have been at home when the appointment was set, all right? But if you just said, the roofer knocked on the door and attempted to contact you, and I apologize, hopefully we can set a time that works better for you tomorrow, right? So adjectives can really have these connotations. Adverbs, these are the tricky trickies. That's why the background is red. They can modify a verb. So the verb is ran. How did he run? He ran quickly. It can modify an adjective. He's tall, the tall boy, the really tall boy. And it can also modify itself. She ran quickly. How quickly? She ran very quickly. Right. Adverbs often lead to flowery, confusing language. So if you can, just simplify it. Like really stick to the simplest of language. But usually adverbs, if you can cut them out, it makes the sentence much easier. How do you cut them out? Usually you can look for the LYs. Okay, if it ends with an LY, it might be an adverb. But of course it's English, so there are exceptions. So instead of saying, we'll try very hard to do a good job of your roof, okay, just, we are ensuring that we'll do a good job with your roof. So adverbs can just cause this flowery language that is not always good for business. All right, prepositions, they just refer to time and location. So these will be important in the business world. When should we meet? We should meet before lunch. How does 12:30 sound for you? To you. Location. Well, I was looking for the remote control and it was behind the sofa. So behind just gives location. So prepositions always refer to nouns and pronouns. Because Aaron and I, when should we meet? Before lunch. It's referring to when we should meet. You know, where is this mouse? Behind the sofa. So that's what it's referring to. If you're dealing with logos, this is the information people want. Okay, the ladder is behind the garage, and the keys are under the doormat. When you are done, please let yourself out. So prepositions are great for logos. Conjunctions. Conjunctions can really help you out in making your sentences seem a little bit more fluid. So they're just easy things that join sentences, but they can also make it sound a little bit more professional. So for example, if you say, I arrived at 4. I waited 20 minutes. You were not there. Those are 3 choppy sentences. But if you said, I arrived at 4 and I did wait until I waited for 20 minutes, hopefully we could connect next time. Just joining those 2 choppy sentences makes it sound like you're not so angry and not so like on the clock. So conjunctions can just give you a little bit of fluidity in your sentences. It also allows you to mix and match because sometimes you want to have just these bullet points, which are great. And then at the end, thank you very much for your time and I hope you have a great weekend. Just a longer, friendlier sentence for pathos. Interjections. These are usually casual things and they always are, they kind of interrupt, they're dramatic, it's a reaction. So, you know, you could be telling me a story and then someone walks in and go, oh my goodness, there's an accident on the street. And you go, wow, no. So an interjection is just always an interruption. Mm-hmm. Not in a bad way. It's if you're texting, you know, Erin says, I found $200. Can you believe that? I'll be like, wow, really? So it's a way that we react, but it's oftentimes just how we talk and it's not a written thing. So I would say keep this for people who are colleagues, friends, family, kids, and the dog. Hey, move. Okay, let's see if we can figure out a pattern. When do we use I, me, and myself? And I say the word pattern very warily because I know that in English, it's always a rule that doesn't quite work. So I'm going to give you a minute to just write maybe one or two, like try and see, can I see a pattern for when I use I and when I use me?
Want us to write a sentence?
Yeah, just see. I had personally never thought about this until I sat yesterday and did this. Like, I just know this, but I don't know why I know this. So for people who are learning English, they have all my sympathy. So, for example, email Dan about the contract and CC me. You wouldn't say CC I. So it seems like we have something here that could be a rule. I made a copy of the contract for myself. Erin and I worked on the website. So if I'm looking at this and I'm trying to guess, it seems like the I is usually before a verb. So I made a copy. To make, there's my verb. Okay. I worked. Work, to work is a verb. But it seems like me comes afterwards. It's more of an ending because you wouldn't say CCI. Let's think of ones maybe that are trickier. What if you say, Erin and me worked on the website?
Doesn't sound right to me.
The only way, like you can really test that me, is if you take the other person out of the equation. That is the litmus test. So if you say, me worked on the website, you kind of sound like you're from the caves. All right, so that is really the litmus test. Take the other person away, and if it's correct, then it's correct. You'll know. But Bob, Erin, and I worked on the website. I worked on the website. Yes, okay, that's the rule. So take everything else away and just go, does this stand alone and does it make sense? The use of myself only ever works if you've already referred to yourself in the beginning. So it's called a reflexive, and because it reflects on something that happened earlier. Because you wouldn't say myself made a copy, because it just sounds weird. But if you say I myself made a copy, I mean, it's repetitive, but it's still correct. So myself has to refer back to a previous version of yourself. It's kind of a strange thing. All right, so I before a verb, and myself, or any form of self, has to reflect back on the original mention of that noun. Bob made a copy of the contract for himself. Okay, so it's just, it has to reflect, it's a reflexive. So the pattern that I can see is that there's I before the verb in the sentence or clause, and myself has to refer to a prior I or me in the sentence. If I go back and I say, I made a copy of the contract for myself, and I also put a copy of it on Erin's desk, I have myself two separate sentences that are joined by the and. So it's almost like they are two separate sentences, so I can use I again, right? I before that verb. So it's not like you can only use it in the beginning. You can use it elsewhere in the sentence, but it has to be before the verb. Okay. But bottom line is, if you just said it alone, if me sounds wrong, you'll know. Okay. All right, some commonly confused words. There, there, and there. There can be an adverb, it's over there, or it could be direction. There with an I is a pronoun, and I always just think of the little person, the I. Okay, so that refers to someone with a face, little I. So that's my pronoun. You know, this office belongs to Danco, this is their office. And then there is a contraction. It's simply that comma is replacing the missing letter in any word where you see that comma. It is always a contraction, meaning there's a letter missing. They are. You've taken out the A and we've just put that comma. So anytime you see that comma, it's a contraction, and you should be able to make two words out of it. If you cannot make two words out of it, then that comma should not be there. So it's and it's. The one with the comma should be?
It is.
It is. Okay. It's ridiculous that I have to pay this much money for gas. Okay. It is ridiculous. But the one without the comma is a pronoun. So the cat licked its paws. It's referring to the cat. Because you can't say the cat licked it is paws. So you're like, okay, no, it's got to be that one. So whenever you see that comma, you just always know, okay, it's got to be two words, otherwise I'm choosing the other one. This one, when people are ranting on Facebook and Twitter, this is the one that always gets wrong, and that's when I laugh. Because immediately I'm like, no, if you were going to give your opinion this strongly, you should have paid attention. So your is just a pronoun, okay? This is your mouse. But you are, okay? You are a great writer. There's two words there, and because it's English, I'm allowed to use that comma, and it makes them as one, and it's a contraction. I don't like the word contraction because it reminds me of having babies, but it's just squishing them together. All right, so when you are doing a professional business email, letter, report, it is much better to use a word that is not a contraction. It's much better to say you are. It's got a more formal sound. Contractions are slightly more informal. Okay, so if you were sending Dan Johnson a report, you can say, I did not receive this information from the architect. But if you're just, texting someone or just sending a quick email down the hallway, you're like, didn't receive it, whoops, that's fine, because it's just this quick conversation back and forth. So contractions are usually informal, and the full word sentence is a little bit more formal. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but one just has a higher level of formality. All right, and then were, where, and where. So on the top, were, it's a verb. We were on our way home. Because it's part of was and to be. Okay, I was there. I am here. So it's a verb. And so it's just one word. Where is a contraction? We are. Okay, we're having this little get together, and thank you for providing water. And then where? Okay, it's an adverb. Where are you? Well, I'm here. Where are you? Oh, he's there. So those ones don't get any commas, and you can see that the H there gives it a softer sound. Where are you? It's where is a little bit harsher. Okay. So these are the its, the yours, and the where's. These three are the ones that I see most commonly, even in college level writing. I have to be honest with you, most of the time it's just because you're in a hurry. A lot of people kind of know all of this, and somehow they're writing quickly and they just forget. But generally these are the ones that catch people up the most. So I think what we should do is end here, because I think you've absorbed quite a bit between the rhetorical triangle and
so for the were, we are, what about just W-E-R-E without the, that's just were? Kind of like where is where.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So where were you on Saturday? Well, we were at the freshwater park. Were. Are you going to bring snacks? We're gonna bring snacks. We are. So if you can do the we are, then it has that apostrophe.
Correct.
Else
Okay.
it's just we were. So that's just always how you test it. Can I make
I do that when I'm writing, or
yes.
Well, mostly when I'm writing, because I'll be like, because I know the apostrophe with the R-E is always like we are, and then you are, and they are and all that. I when I'm reading something over, I say that to myself and see if it makes the grammar is correct, or the pronunciation or whatever.
Yeah, so there's just a few little tricks, and that's one of them. So if you can split it into two words, then that's what it is, even though you can't see that A in we are.
Right.
That comma actually represents something. It's the shadow of something.
Something missing.
Yeah. Whereas the other two are their own words and never get that comma. So none of this is rocket science, but definitely the taking care of just not having too many adverbs in a sentence, because it sometimes can load up the connotations of, oh, are you being critical, or are you being too flowery? So keep your sentences simple. In emails especially, and we'll go through this next time of good emails and how to improve certain things. In emails especially, you don't want to be too flowery, not too much information. You don't want to have to read through too much. The simpler they are, the clearer they are, really the more effective they are, because that's just the point of the email. And one of the things that is part of the simplicity is to make sure that the email only goes to the people who need it. For example, an email that might be sent out to the whole company, but you really only need to respond your portion to Dan. You don't have to keep copying
everybody on there. I know.
Yes. So this is not something that you can always control, because everyone has their own style with emails. But the simpler it is, the shorter the thread, the clearer the heading, the easier it is for the person to know what to do. So, and I mean, I know I've starred Erin's emails, so I can just find them quickly.
Right, exactly.
And because she was so great in the beginning, just Danco Business Workshop, now I can just find it. I don't have to go, oh my gosh, where is it? There's it hidden behind these 5. So,
Yeah.
you know, just with communication, I think being simple is better.
The better. Best.
I have a story about the don't CC everyone. At the company I worked for before, it was a nationwide company, and somebody wrote an email and obviously mis-emailed where they were trying to send it to, because they sent it to the entire region. Instead of ignoring the email that was not for them, a bunch of people emailed back that it wasn't for them and CC'd everyone because they pressed reply all.
Oh my Lord.
To the point where we had to have our IT people shut down emails so that we could clear everything out because it had like crashed the system.
Everybody was replying all.
Yeah. Reply all, no, not me. Oh yeah, we could use toilet paper. Here, send 6 rolls. It was literally an email about, oh, we're low on toilet paper down on the 2nd floor. Can you bring some? And everybody, who are you talking to? I don't know you. Are you on the 2nd floor? No, none of these are for you. If you don't know the person, don't email back.
It sounds like a lovely episode of The Office.
It went on for like a week. It was
because other people would come in and read it.
They'd come back from wherever they were, and they'd read it, and they'd go, what's going on? Why is my email like got 78 emails? What's going on? To everybody, and then it would start up all again.
No, I mean, it's funny when you hear the story, but when it's happening to you, it's
That's
kind of annoying.
You just have to pay attention.
Yeah, and I mean, we all make mistakes and stuff, but to me, emails should be very specific, and they should be to the point. And what is really great if people have their signature, if they send information on a phone, because then the person, if they're just using their phone, immediately knows how to contact you back.
Right.
So, you know, there are certain things that are super helpful, but next time we'll go through some of those things. I think you guys are probably the experts with this.
You can come. Huh?
Dan? Yeah. I thought he was upstairs.
I think he's still upstairs.
All right, so that was a brief little
Well, thank you.
run through of things.
It's a reminder of a lot of when we were, and I'm probably older than both of you, but it's funny that, you know, you go through when you said conjunction, what went on in my head was conjunction, junction.
What's your function?
Yeah, School of Rock. And same thing with the noun and the pronoun. That stuff stays in your mind because they sang it.
Right. Right.
You know.
So this is why you know so much grammar. It's just that the tones are confusing. And then you don't know it.
Right.
You're like, I don't know a dangling modifier. Maybe I'm not so good in English.
Right.
It doesn't matter. You know, does the sentence make
You can come in. We're done. I'm done.
I'm a little toasty in here, huh?
Yeah.
We're all warm.
I will need your help.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got you covered.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you next time.
Yes. All right.
Hi, Michelle.
All right. I want to go back to
This one?
Thank you.
You're on it. I don't know how to use Prezi.
Hey, and then Erin too. I was gonna suggest to stop and start the recording, so then we have like 2 videos, one for the first class and one for the second.
Let me
Cool.
stop.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We to edit the.
Yeah. Careful you don't end the meeting or stop the screen sharing. It should be a little that same settings area.
Or not.
No.
I don't. Okay, here we go.
Stop recording.